The following is an article in the publication The Lake of Lerna from March 11th, 2025. The title of the article is Influencerdämmerung. The subtitle reads, Jojo, Siwa, and the Twilight of the Influencers. It was written by Yakubian Ape. It began on November 27th, 2024, and, like many great shifts, began in the most unlikely of places, by the most unlikely of people. I have no idea who the TikTok user Hima is. I presume her name must be Anita, because that's her subheader. How many followers does she have? Is she in any way a substantial figure on the platform? I don't know. I don't think it matters, and I'm not polluting my phone with TikTok to find out. For what it's worth, she seems like any other person on TikTok who uses the app to post quick snippets of whatever might be on her mind, with little in the way of a substantial or dedicated following. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter. I'm not sure what possessed Miss Hima, I suppose we should call her, to upload the video she did, in which she's simply laying in her bed, staring at the camera with an inscrutable expression, not unlike that of a vacant-eyed grouper absently floating in an aquarium tank, saying nothing, doing nothing, accompanied by the following text. The author included a TikTok video of user Hima lying down on a bed with a text overlay that reads, Brew, imagine if we all just started ignoring celebrities. Like, how hilarious would it be if they posted and got like 13 likes? As of this writing in January 2025, the video has close to 11 million views and over 200,000 comments. Despite the lack of production value to Hima's video, or any real reason to either watch it or for her to have uploaded it, the idea of simply ignoring a celebrity tickled those for whom the algorithm shunted into their For You feed. Now, the idea of ignoring a celebrity is not exactly a novel one. I've been making the claim that we should probably just look the other way when someone like Sean Penn or Barbara Streisand decides that their opinion is worth sharing for, years now. But no one ever listens to me. Perhaps it's because I'm not a 20-something white girl on TikTok, and we should all be grateful for that because in another, more grim timeline where I'd been born with 2 X chromosomes, facial features that could best be described as mid, and a birth year that began with a 2 and a 0. Well, let's just say if you saw how I used to play Sims when I was in my later adolescent years, you'd know why it's imperative that I never reach a position of unbridled power or influence. That all being said, Hima's proposal is not exactly a proprietary one. Yet, for whatever reason, Hima was the one to see the masses of TikTok finally listen to reason. People were curious. What would happen if they didn't pay attention to influencers and celebrities? A voice lost to time boldly made a suggestion, and named one Jojo Siwa as the first individual that should be collectively, roundly ignored. The author included an image of Jojo Siwa in a colorful, rainbow-themed outfit and sparkly mask, singing into a microphone on stage. The consensus was unanimous. Starting in December, Jojo Siwa was persona non grata. On TikTok, Jojo Siwa has over 48 million followers. Collectively, her videos have accumulated over 2 billion likes. Routinely, her videos receive views around the watermark of her follower count. After TikTok declared that they were going to ignore her, her view count took a plunge. Though she was still receiving tens of millions of views on her videos, the likes and engagement said videos received plummeted into the tens of thousands. To us plebeians who get excited over a single like or comment, I understand that tens of thousands of likes, comments, and other forms of engagement may seem unimaginable, if not overwhelming. But for someone who was enjoying millions of likes on every single upload they made, the tumble into the 5-digit range is a precipitous one. To rub salt in the wound, most of the comments were not complimentary of Siwa, but rather TikTok users posting, stick to the plan or ignore the video, and, my personal favorite, remember the master plan. If it was any more oblique, they'd be posting memes like this. The author included an image with a monkey typing into a computer and text that says, "Hide Jojo Siwa threads, ignore Jojo Siwa posts, and do not reply Jojo Siwa to posters." Even if she was averaging 16 million views on her videos post-damnatio memoriae, the fact she wasn't getting those sweet, succulent likes and every comment was reminding her that everyone had unanimously decided to ignore her did not sit well with Miss Siwa. I've said it before, and I'm certain I'll say it at least 1 trillion times more before I'm finally let down by my friends one more time into the cold, hard ground, but there's a golden rule when it comes to the internet and dealing with the commentariat of any given website. Don't feed the trolls. While I'm of the opinion that the trolls, in this case, were objectively doing the right thing, it's still, trolling. To quote the ever-prescient piece of 80s Kino war games, the only winning move is not to play. And do you know what Jojo Siwa didn't do? The author included an image of Jojo Siwa crying, with a text overlay that reads, "Jojo Siwa crying over 50,000 likes when this will barely hit 30, crying laughing emoji." There's a number of videos Siwa posted to TikTok voicing her displeasure over the fact that she had been labeled public enemy #1 by the TikTok lady. Most of them involve her sitting in her car, red-faced, eyes swollen, and crying. Needless to say, this was nothing but delicious red meat to the ever-growing horde of TikTok users that were relishing in her downward spiral. One user, Momo Reagan, stated the following, quote, "This trend of ignoring celebrities is actually so fun. Why didn't we start this sooner?" End of quote. My, that is a good question, Ms. Momo. There were other people, cough, cough, suggesting this before. Why did you all just start doing this? The author included an image of Lin-Manuel Miranda looking confused while talking to Larry David in a scene from the HBO show, Curb Your Enthusiasm. I mean, it's not like I've been saying we should ignore celebrities on social media since I was, in middle school or something. I suppose we'll let it slide. Strange bedfellows and all that. Other TikTokers chimed in with their opinions, making statements like, "We just don't realize that it's actually us who have power. Like we literally decide their salary, and they depend on us." Say what you want about TikTok, but it seems as if the users are beginning to ascend to some sort of level of basic self-awareness. The dirty little secret about influencers and celebrities is this: they do depend on you. Yes, you. Every time you utter a celebrity's name, every time you open an article pertaining to them, you're giving them your attention. Ah, put your hands down. Yeah. I see you going for the keyboard. You were gonna write? But Yakubian Ape, you fiendish Caucasianoid, you're writing about Jojo Siwa right now. Which, yes, I am. But I have a point, so just cool your jets, Sparky. We'll get there. To my point, for instance. Well, I've admitted before, and I admitted it on Prester John Andrews' relatively new panel-style podcast, The Digression Sessions. I like the NFL. Yes, I know. Sports ball. You can laugh. It's fine. I get it. When I was younger, I hated football. Why? Because I'm a natural-born contrarian, and I was convinced that it was something only stupid people pay attention to, which are, well, football fans and I may not be beating those allegations, but I digress. But when I was a teenage dirtbag simian, and I'd sit there and kvetch about the NFL, the MLB, the NBA, and every major sports organization down to Jaya Lai and competitive underwater basket weaving, I'd still be talking about it. I was still giving it attention. Believe it or not, I bitched so much about the NFL that it got a good friend of mine so interested in professional football that he now works for the Dallas Cowboys. Still waiting on that finder's fee, by the way, pal. The point stands that your attention is precious energy, and where you invest it, whether it's love or hate or anything in between, gives that energy to whatever you afford it to all the same. Hell, I'll take it one step further. Look at the occult. The author included an absurd collage of internet memes, pop culture references, and esoteric symbols with text that reads, "Let me schizo post," and "I will return to reality later." Whenever it comes to any kind of paranormal issue, whether it be ghosts, demons, Bigfoot could be uprooting your turnips to make a salad, or a Wendigo could be mean-mugging you through your bathroom window while you're dropping the kids off at the pool, do you know what the general advice you're going to get from a quote-unquote professional on the matter? The author included an image of Will Smith as Agent J from the film Men in Black, holding a neuralizer and saying, "Don't even worry about it." The image caption reads, "Especially if they're G-men in snappy black suits." You know why? Because all these little ghosts, goblins, and ghouls, yeah. You know, ghouls? Little green ghouls? The author included an animated GIF of Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia saying, "Little green ghouls, buddy." The image caption reads, "Yeah, those." They want your attention. These things, assuming they're real, thrive on attention. And the more of it you give them, the more of a problem you'll have. They want you to piss your pants with fright. Now, yes, you might want to invest in some holy water. Maybe get your local medicine man to do some throat singing and smoke some sage in the dark corners of your house. Perhaps consider buying some real estate that isn't on cursed land. But by and large, if you act as if nothing is going on, is anything really going on? If a tree falls in a forest and no one's around to hear it, did it really make a noise? Real ones know what I mean. To bring this back around to the bête noire du jour, an astute friend of mine once told me, "Attention is currency, so be careful where you spend it." He's absolutely right. And that currency is valuable. Attention is, in a sense, tacit approval. After all, the old adage goes that bad attention is better than no attention. That's basically the defining praxis of the entire advertising industry. They couldn't give less of a shit if you like their ads. They just want you to see them and get whatever subpar product or service they're hawking beamed into your eyeballs. This, in turn, is why canceling celebrities usually, but not always, is a fruitless endeavor. Case in point. The author included an image of J.K. Rowling. The image caption reads, "I just can't get away from you, can I, J.K.? You don't need to have read my extensive and in-depth look at the United Kingdom's most successful, celebrated, and perhaps detested modern author to know that the leftmost reaches of the political spectrum has been trying to claim her scalp for the better part of a decade now. Whenever a new Potter-centric project drops, you can rest assured a new wave of virulent anti-Rowling polemics will be hand-delivered to your newsfeed in short order. Hashtag cancel Rowling sentiments rise and fall so regularly that they're almost as predictable as the coming and going of the tides or eclipses. Yet, each and every time, Rowling skates past her naysayers mostly unscathed, collecting a fat paycheck in the process. During the last iteration of this cycle, when the wizarding world-centric AAA video game, Hogwarts Legacy, dropped in 2022, the vehement push by critics of Rowling to tank the game, despite her playing no direct part in its production, served less to kneecap the sales and more as a free advertising campaign. Right-leaning culture war stumps, like Jeremy Hambley and Steven Crowder, bought multiple copies of the game and encouraged others to do the same, because I guess throwing money at things you don't care about and don't particularly like, at people who probably don't agree with you ideologically, is an effective way of owning the libs. When popular VTuber Silvervale was blackballed and harangued by some of her own coworkers at the talent agency, Jojo, for just saying that she wanted to play the game, the resident malcontent and shit-stirrer of the VTuber world, Pipkin Pippa, streamed herself playing the game to her sizable audience just to spite the political partisans in her own community. The author included an image of a digital anime character with pink hair and rabbit ears, who has a shocked or confused expression. The image caption reads, This is the same streamer that Ethan the Gunt, Ralph, has a one-sided blood feud with for reasons I still cannot comprehend. Because picking fights with a grown woman who pretends to be an anime girl and plays video games for most of her waking hours is a totally sensible thing to do. I know most of that terminology and most of those names mean nothing to most of you, since I'm assuming most of you are well-adjusted enough to know very little about the perpetual motion engine of clown-on-clown hyperviolence that is the VTuber scene, but it doesn't really matter. I'm only bringing it up here to prove the point that when you give something attention, you're often going to bring it to other people's attention, in turn. People who may have had no idea that it existed before you made them aware that it did. I mean, I do it all the time. I love exposing the unwary to the horrors. TM, they'd never know about otherwise. You're welcome, by the way. Now, Hogwarts Legacy was always destined to make buku bucks, regardless of what anyone said or did. It's a Potter project. You could slap Harry Potter iconography on a bag of desiccated cow pies and someone would buy it. When I was in England, I found out there was a whole fucking cottage industry of shops that do nothing but Hawk Potter paraphernalia to tourists. There's like 3 in the shambles of York alone. The author included an image of a narrow, historic street lined with medieval buildings, including a prominent sign for Little Shambles on the right. The image caption reads, "Wow, what a quaint and well-preserved slice of old England. I think we should put 3 Harry Potter souvenir shops here." But I truly do believe that Hogwarts Legacy's built-in success was elevated to blockbuster status, grossing over $1 billion in revenue within less than a calendar year of release, and moving over 30 million copies in less than 2. From the sheer amount of press coverage, the shitstorm of one-sided controversy surrounding it. The best thing anyone who truly wanted this project to fail could have done was simply not talk about. Don't feed the fire. Don't spend that lucrative currency of your attention on it. Don't think it. Don't say it. The author included an intentionally crude and comical parody of a horror movie poster featuring a hooded figure with the repeated text, "Don't think it, don't say it," on his trench coat and the title, "The Pee-Pee Poo-Poo Man" at the bottom. The image caption reads, "Don't think it, don't say it, don't think it, don't say it." In one of my first articles I ever published, I even said as much about the culture wars themselves. This publication takes its name from the legendary home of the mythical Hydra. There was a time when I had planned on making this kind of motif around it, when I was more invested in and writing about culture war stuff, but the analogy between the multi-headed serpentine beast of old and the snarled, tangled, and dangerous den of vipers that is the entertainment industrial complex are still apropos. I said then that this is not a beast that can be defeated by trying to fight it. The Hydra of Hollywood has more heads, more resources, and infinitely more money than anyone trying to slay it. The best thing you can do is simply ignore it and let it wither away in ignominy. That attention you waste on bitching about things that you don't like would be better invested in talking, discussing, and building up things that you do like, and hopefully bringing more eyes and attention to that instead. I know this might sound a bit ironic coming from someone like me, who routinely writes about things they don't particularly like or care about. I'd make the argument that I'm trying to make sense of these things and analyze them in a way that's more educational or, at least, constructive and productive than simply mindlessly railing against something or someone I don't like. None of what I put to digital paper is intended to be senseless, inchoate rage bait intended to harvest clicks. But I'm also trying to diversify my output so it isn't strictly cultural studies or exposés on those sorts of things. It's why I spent the whole month of October 2024 writing about the paranormal instead. You did read those articles, right? Right. The TikTok users are correct when they say that influencers like Jojo Siwa need people to pay attention to them. It's their lifeblood, metaphorically and literally. Attention pads Jojo Siwa's bank account. It paid for this mansion she just sold. But it isn't just about the money. People like Siwa are a specialized breed of intense narcissists and histrionics who need attention the same way the rest of us need air to breathe. Good attention, bad attention. It doesn't matter. If Siwa was averse to bad publicity, she wouldn't have gotten CEO of Gay Pop tattooed on her arm as a failed jab at the critics who lambasted her for making such an outlandish statement. Some would say it's a light-hearted attempt to poke fun at herself. I think she's just attempting to rankle feathers. She knows it's going to piss people off all over again. But you know what? They're going to talk about her, and that's exactly what she wants. So how do you win against someone like her? You just don't talk about them. You don't acknowledge them. At most, you point, you laugh, and you move on. It's really that simple. Unfortunately, it seems that the attempted refutation of Jojo Siwa has done little to damage the longevity of her career. Ultimately, it was a TikTok trend, which, like anything else on a platform that's quite literally designed to shred your attention span into a fine, watery puree with micro-content, it was quickly forgotten as users leapt onto the next shiny thing that caught their eye like a bunch of coked-up magpies with ADHD. But I also wouldn't say that Jojo Siwa's social media presence is as robust as it was a year ago. About a month ago, as of this writing, she dropped another single that slipped almost entirely under the pop scene radar. I believe that the tepid reception has less to do with a dedicated boycott of Siwa, and more with the fact that there's bigger fish in the industry that are more interesting than eye-catching than she is at the moment. Girly pop, as it's been dubbed, and its icons like Billie Eilish, Chappell Roan, Sabrina Carpenter are all dominating the pop music scene at the moment, and I just don't see a picayune presence like Siwa knocking them off their pedestals. She doesn't have the legitimate vocal talents of Billie Eilish, the campy and kitschy artistry of Chappell Roan, or the sex appeal of Sabrina Carpenter. Whatever you think about the women I just rattled off, you can't deny that they all have a certain je ne sais quoi to them that elevates them to a tier above Siwa, who comes off as less of a genuine pop star and more of a little kid dressed up in their parents' clothes, tugging at coattails and trying to get adults to look at their macaroni art. This puts Siwa in the unenviable position of someone who has to be an incendiary firebrand with a big mouth just to stand out, and I do believe she'll light up the headlines soon enough when she makes some out-of-pocket statement, such as claiming she's God Queen of the Gays, or whenever she drops another tasteless, ugly music video for a completely forgettable pop song that sounds like it was written and composed by ChatGPT. It's all she can do. I'd say that the dividing line that separates a, say, Chappell Roan from a Jojo Siwa is that, ultimately, one is an artist, one is an influencer. Yes, Roan is backed by a small army of producers, assistants, writers, and musicians, and she's more of a product than a person. But at the core of her operation, I do believe there's a glimmer of sincerity that shines through the caked layers of pop varnish. Her entire shtick is drenched in the ephemera of drag queens and sense of camp that I can only describe as Zoomer John Waters. The author included an image of Chappell Roan with a dramatic makeup look, wearing multiple strands of pearl necklaces and a ruffled garment, sitting at a vanity table with her hand resting on her face. The image caption reads, "Tell me this doesn't look like a still from an alternate universe where John Waters made films with a budget bigger than some bus fare and a BOGO coupon for Burger King." It's eye-catching, yes, but not in the same way that Siwa's garish, Technicolor aesthetic is. It's kitschy. It's campy. It's a little horror B-movie trashy. But Roan takes the most compelling elements of those aesthetics and does them well. There's a subtlety and thought to Roan's imagery that is completely absent in Siwa's, that speaks to the fact that those scenes, subcultures, aesthetics, whatever, are all something she appreciates and understands. Roan's image is inexorably tied to queer subcultures, drag, and other such things. But she doesn't need to paint her face with rainbow stripes or staple a pride flag to her chest to get the point across. The content of her lyrics and the simple aesthetics of her imagery speak for her. Compare and contrast. The author included an image of Jojo Siwa wearing a colorful, sparkling outfit with a microphone on stage. The image caption reads, "I'm gay! Can you tell?" The word insecure comes to mind when I see Siwa in her rainbow vomit outfits. It feels as if she's wearing a costume that she is not confident she should be wearing. It doesn't suggest, it screams at you, "I'm gay! I'm gay! I'm gay!" And one feels distinctly as if she's trying to compensate for a lack of anything other than flashy colors and hollow pandering to a demographic you can absolutely tell she doesn't feel accepted by. At least, not in the slavish way I believe she wanted to be, by which I mean she would be elevated overnight to Lord of the Queers after her coming out. More importantly than their aesthetic differences, I also think that Rowan is someone who's, first and foremost, concerned with music. Even if she wasn't the bona fide pop princess that she is right now, I think she's someone who'd still be making music. She was doing so well before she ever got a hit on Spotify. I don't think the same could be said for Jojo Siwa, for whom music is a tertiary medium through which she's looking to amplify her brand. She's got nothing to say, no statement to make. If she did, she wouldn't be surreptitiously covering songs and passing them off as her own. She'd be writing original pieces. She's just there to be there and remind you that she exists. She's there to sell you the Jojo Siwa brand. The reason I juxtaposed Rowan and Siwa is that I think Rowan is who Siwa wishes that she was, a veritable icon of the rainbow block, a consummate entertainer and a genuine creative with a solid grasp on both the art of music and visual imagery. She doesn't need to seize you by the cheeks, dig her manicured talons into your flesh, and wrench your head in her direction to get you to look at her. She's got that kind of magnetism that a lot of successful artists have that draw the eye naturally. Meanwhile, as much as Siwa wishes that she was some sort of queer icon, she seems to be on precariously thin ice with the rainbow block. Her music is entirely outsourced to a faceless record label committee. If Rowan's imagery evokes certain aspects of rainbow subcultures, Siwa's artistry is like a technicolor sledgehammer to the face. She has to act like a yapping chihuahua and bite your ankles because, otherwise, you'd never think to look at her twice. Both are tacky. Rowan herself describes her image as such. But one is calculated, while the other is a slapdash mess cobbled together by witless office stiffs with no working knowledge of what actually made tacky work for people like Chappelle Roan and John Waters. I don't say all this to baselessly glaze Roan. I do like some of her songs, and I think she's very interesting, but I can't say I'm what are they calling her fans? Like, Ariana Grande has Ariana tours. Nicki Minaj has her Barbs. I think Katy Perry had Katy Kat's back when people cared about her. Are there chappies out there? Roners? Cronies, maybe? I don't know, but the point is, you won't find me at the local gay bar an assless chap singing Pink Pony Club. But it's not really about Siwa and Roan. I could be doing the same comparing and contrasting an influencer like Jake Paul, who's currently pretending to be a boxer, and an actual athlete like Canelo Alvarez, who would probably knock one of Paul's eyes out of his sockets if they were in the ring together. It's the difference between Pipkin Pippa, who streams herself playing video games because she's most likely certifiably insane, but genuinely seems to enjoy what she does, and Pokimane, who only streams because she knows horny simps will throw boatloads of money at her. While Pippa seems to enjoy bullshitting with those watching her, you can watch clips of Pokimane's streams and practically feel the smoldering resentment she harbors for her audience radiating through the screen. It's not a leap in logic to say that if she could be doing something else, she probably would be. But her collection of luxury cars, yes, really, ain't gonna pay for itself. J.K. Rowling is still writing books that aren't getting nearly the traction her Potter pieces ever got, but she's still turning out novel after novel. How many published authors will still be writing BDSM-adjacent supernatural schmut when that fad inevitably goes the way of the dodo? How many will still be writing at all? What I'm talking about is the difference between a guy like Mr. Beast, who had refined the production of slop into an industrial-grade science, and literally anyone on YouTube who does what they do because they enjoy it rather than seeking financial gain. The author included an image of YouTuber Mr. Beast looking towards the camera, wearing a pink and black striped shirt. Jimmy Donaldson has never shied away from the fact that he's in the YouTube game to make money. For him, it's all business. He's admitted that he spends an unhealthy amount of his free time researching trends and studying social media algorithms to perfectly calculate how to game them. It's impressive, to be certain, and no one can question his work ethic, but he's made it abundantly clear that providing a product of value is secondary to making a product. Hilarious as this sounds, I'd contrast him with John Townsend of the Townsend's channel. Now that's a man who does what he loves, and loves what he does. You know he would be dressing up like a colonial-era peasant and cooking up plum pudding for an audience of 15 people and a dog pro bono, because he's just that passionate about history and cooking. I'm sure he enjoys the money he makes from his channel and the related businesses he operates, but you can watch John Townsend and hear the love he has for his craft in the way he speaks alone. The author included an image of John Townsend dressed in historical clothing sitting at a table with food. The image caption reads, "I love this guy. I'd eat gruel and offal with him any day." You can fake a lot, but enthusiasm, affection, and passion are inimitable. What I'm trying to drive home here is that people like Rohn, Townsend, and even Alvarez do what they do because they have a passion for their respective art. You can watch MrBeast's oldest videos and see that there was a time he had a genuine passion for filmmaking. I don't doubt Paul had a sincere fondness for combat sports. I imagine Pokimane probably enjoyed streaming at some point. As a dancer, Siwa must have been interested in music to some extent. But their content is, well, it's not art, it's content. It's slop. They're slop. They don't make art. They don't make music. They don't even try. They make content that is, on an artistic and fundamental level, no different than brightly colored, spastically edited YouTube content farm videos that are filled with deafening, royalty-free music and rapid-fire fart sound effects. The author included an image of two men, one with curly hair and the other with purple hair, sitting at a table surrounded by various toys and smiling with surprised expressions. The image caption reads, "You know the soy face is always a good indicator whether or not something is slop or not." It's tasteless, it's bland, it's disposable, and the only way they can get you to engage with it is by slathering it in eye-catching colors, acting like fools, and grabbing your attention by force rather than intrigue. In Siwa's case, her music is quickly and brainlessly produced on the cheap, bereft of any real merit or quality, made less to serve as legitimate art and more as a piece of noise to clog up the airwaves, in between better, more substantial things that people actually care about. It's meaningless sounds and colors to keep you distracted and, more importantly, consuming. In my opinion, that's what slop is. It's just there. And that's what influencers do, peddle slop. They have nothing more meaningful to offer. A lot of ink has been spilled on the matter of slop, specifically slop generated by artificial intelligence programs. This is justifiably warranted, but it's imperative that we remember humans are capable of making slop just as miserable as any large language model or chatbot. I think the problem is largely one in the same. Our world, our culture, our society is being inundated with low-effort, low-quality, mind-numbing content that no one wants and no one is asking for, regardless of where it's coming from, being blasted out into the world for the sole purpose of stealing our attention and siphoning what money can be sucked out of our pockets. The ever-prescient librarian of Solano made the following comment on my article on the sports gambling crisis. Quote, "The basic business model of neoliberalism is not production, but extraction. The whole managerial state has evolved/degenerated into a giant rent-seeking regime." End of quote. And I think that's the rub. The influencers are the rent-seekers of culture. They take and they take and they take without ever offering anything of quality, all the while crowding out anyone with anything sincere to say through noise, noise, and more noise. And if it sounds as if I'm being uncharitable towards some of these influencers, I very well may be. But I don't think the influencer class is to be loathed. Rather, they're, mostly, pitiable figures. Mr. Beast may have more money than Mansa Musa, but what good is all that cash worth if he doesn't even have the time to enjoy what it can do for him? As I said in my previous article on Siwa, I don't see her as a malicious actor, but rather a hurt young woman desperately attempting to assert her agency over her life and career. If these influencers live lives as empty as they seem from the outside looking in, I hope that there comes a time they find a more fulfilling path to follow. As much as I wish these people would just go away, I don't wish them ill. I don't think these are evil people. Immoral, debatable, but evil, not truly. They're only doing what they do because we've allowed them to do it. We, perhaps mistakenly, afforded them their fortunes. We, similarly, have the power to collectively revoke it. All we have to do is politely and calmly state, "No, thank you." Even though the boycott of Jojo Siwa ultimately petered out into nothing, I think it's a good indicator that an increasing amount of people are growing wise to this. A lot of them are removing the proverbial wool from their eyes and beginning to ask how we can save ourselves from this seemingly unending deluge of exploitative and predatory mediocrity. And to them, I would remind them that attention is currency. Can a merchant sell a product that a customer is not willing to buy? The author included an image of a painting by Rembrandt, titled The Syndics of the Drapers' Guild, which depicts 6 men, dressed in dark clothing and wide-brimmed hats, gathered around a table with a red cloth. The image caption reads, "With many thanks to the Merchants' Guild." That concludes Influencerdämmerung, an article from March 11th, 2025 in the publication The Lake of Lerna.